Well, last June, I had the opportunity to make a 4-day retreat. And the theme of the first part of the retreat was entitled Taking in Good, or Taking in the Good. Another way of saying it is be grateful for your blessings. It was geared to help us broaden our attention to life, which allows us to simply note the gifts that life is offering. As a result, we may discover that we are surrounded by an abundance of care and support. Such a life provides less space for your suffering because your attention is more balanced. Your mind is absorbed with noting and reflecting, and your body is kept busy expressing and repaying. Now, on this retreat, I did not hear anything really new. Over the years, I did a lot of work with this whole thing about the power of positive thinking and the like. But I will say this retreat was like a wake-up call for me, because I realized that little by little, maybe getting so busy, that I didn't take time to really take in good. That I got so caught up sometimes with creation in a sense that maybe I forgot about the Creator. There was this one quotation that really stung me, but it's not the best quotation, but it says something like, an ungrateful person is like a hog sitting under a tree eating acorns and never looking up to see where they come from. And then I thought, too, maybe not taking in the good on a daily basis all the time, that it may had something to do with the mood swings I was experiencing, or just the mild depression that I felt at times. Taking in the good. Well, scientists, and I have to say, what I did? I really identified more with the 9 lepers who kind of pocketed their blessing and never went back to say thanks. I was kind of like at that level. But scientists, especially psychiatrists and the like, say that the brain has a negativity bias. In effect, it's like Velcro for negative experiences, but like Teflon for positive experiences. The unfair and unfortunate result is that negative experiences get captured in the emotional memory instead of positive ones, gradually darkening your outlook, your mood, and your sense of self. And I think that was happening to me at one level. And to overcome the negative bias and instead make your brain like Velcro for the good stuff of daily life and take in the good, like counting your blessings and the like, we have to let the positive steps become positive experiences. Let your brain feel good if you get something done, if someone is nice to you, or if you notice a good quality in yourself. Taking in good, taking in good. Savor the positive experience for 10, 20, 30 seconds. Try to let it fill your body and be as intense as possible. Let it soak into you like water into a sponge. For instance, we are told that lasting and good relationships typically need at least a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative experiences, taking in the good. So it's something you have to work at. And it's something that I have been working at too, taking in the good several times a day, and it's really made a difference. In today's scripture readings, we find 2 wonderful examples of people who took in the good, and it formed their whole lives. Here we have Naaman, a commander in the king's army. And he had heard of the prophet Elisha's remarkable power and was encouraged to meet him. But Elisha said, "No, I don't have to meet you." He just sent instructions that Naaman should go wash in the Jordan and he would be healed. And this really disturbed Naaman, annoyed him. But nevertheless, they persuaded him to go and do as Elisha directed. And he emerged from the Jordan, healed of his ailment and filled with a newly awakened faith that glorified the power of the God of Israel. Notice that he didn't pocket his blessing. He went and did what he was told. And then we notice that he goes back to Elisha to try to thank him and give him a gift in return. And when his gift is refused, Naaman took earth from Israel home with him to Syria. And at this point, relations weren't great between the two countries, just like today. To build there an altar on which to offer sacrifice to God, by whose power he had been healed. It's another way of saying that Naaman took in the good. He began to count his blessings, and he let those blessings seek deep down into himself. And he glorified the power of God that made him whole. And he learned that one does not pay the God of Israel, one receives his gifts in thanksgiving. He began to live a life of gratitude, constantly being aware of the good that God was giving him. In the gospel, we find 10 lepers who called out to Jesus for pity. Jesus directed them to go show yourselves to the priest in keeping with the law that required priestly approval to allow the person back into the community. But a deep, passionate gratitude compelled one of them to return to Jesus. And he was a Samaritan, despised, really disliked, considered unclean by Jewish people. As the healed one glorified God and honored Jesus so reverently, his faith became obvious, and Jesus acknowledged it with a promise of salvation. Healing is salvation when we acknowledge God's gracious initiation and when our response to that initiative is faith. Many who receive God's blessings only take them. They only take them. Others are led by them into a life of blessedness, Naaman and this Samaritan leper. Both were transformed by their experience. 9 lepers behaved like good lepers, good Jews. They did exactly as Jesus told them to do. But the Samaritan behaved like a man in love. He was driven by the experience of being made whole, free, and newly alive to live a whole new way of life. Like Naaman and the 10th grateful leper, we have the opportunity at every Mass to be transformed by God and by His grace. We are challenged not just to pray, pay, and obey, but to be so in love with Jesus and so passionate about the gospel that we cannot help but to glorify God and fall at Jesus' feet and thank Him. This is what keeps bringing us back to the one who never stops giving, loving, compassionate gratitude. Each time we return, Jesus will assure us, stand up and go. Your faith has saved you. The first part of the retreat was taking in good. And I learned that the more we count our blessings, the more we take in good, it paves the way, which was the second part of the retreat, taking in God. How nature, grace really builds on nature. A challenge to be grateful people so that we can truly consider the presence of God in our lives, keep taking in God himself.